Welcome to Mind Power Meets Mystic. You are here with me, Michelle Walters. I am the Mind Power, the hypnotherapist of the equation, with my podcast partner and pal, Cynthia Varkavas, our show Mystic. We have had a lot of things going on, and we've decided that this is going to be a gush episode about movies we like because there's so much other stuff going in the world that it seems like a good choice just to make it simple and to talk about something, like movies, because most people like movies. So, you ready, Cynthia?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so before the break, let's talk about an old movie that is on your favorite list. What is an old movie that is on your favorite list, Cynthia?
Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you that Goonies and Princess Bride do not count because that's just, I mean, I don't know about you, but I could talk about that all day long and then I will end up quoting and we'll be doing all that stuff. I would have to say those are just brilliant movies. So I'm going to go to Joy Luck Club. The
Amy
reason
Tan.
Amy Tan and it was one of the times where I saw the movie before reading the book. And to be honest, to this day, I haven't read the book because there's a family story that goes with it. So Joy Luck Club's an amazing story about, these, I think they're four women, right? And their relationship with their family and culture. And the reason that it was so amazing to me is that it was the first time that I could see my family represented in a movie, someplace outside of my immediate family. Now, having said that, you could see my big fat Greek wedding, and there's pieces of it in there because it's about extended family. However, the um, the beauty of it and that women were seen in a different way. I remember being young and my grandmother, my Oma, my mom's mom, being really upset because my mom was not serving my dad his dinner.
Oh,
I
there you go. Yeah.
yeah, and it's really not that long ago, when you think about it, at least not in my lifetime. God forbid if I told my kids about that, it would be, a completely different conversation. But the the storyline was strong. It was lush. The cinematography was really good, and you'll see the running theme, and it's these relationships with women as and apologies. Oh, with women and their mothers, women and their culture. It's just incredible. And I know you saw it. How did you like it?
I saw it years ago, and I had read the book before I saw the movie. And I remember when I saw the movie being upset because I know this is going to come back and flip the other way in a little bit, that the movie didn't follow the book as closely as I wanted it to. But um, but I liked it. I thought it was a great story. I thought it was really it was well done and it was well made. And it was novel to see a story like that being told on the cinema, you know, in the big screen of, really a bunch of Asian women um and their relationships and their families and what that all looked like. It was a great
Right.
movie.
It was a great movie. The reason I didn't read the book is I was so impressed with it that I wanted to take all the women in my family to go. By the time we got there, this is before you could pre-order your tickets, right? You pre-ordering tickets meant go early and buy them ahead of time. So we went out, we had some lunch, and then found out that the movie was sold out. When
Oh,
my family saw it, we all saw it separately. Here's what I realized. I am a first generation American in which my mother had huge ties to her Asian roots. My mom has a sister that's only 2 years younger, and her roots to the Netherlands and to Indonesia are not as strong. 2 years, what a big difference, right?
right.
It wasn't. And so my mom had this thing that she held on to. And then being, raised by my mom with these cultures and superstitions and things like that, completely different from my aunt, which means completely different from my cousin. And then the other women were sister-in-laws, and they had their own experience. And so because no one really identified, I lost the I lost the taste, I think, to dig a little bit deeper. So I know that wasn't about the movie, but just had to wrap that piece up. But I would
That's
love,
okay.
yeah. So let's hear about your story, your movie.
So my favorite old movie is Sliding Doors
Ugh.
with Gwyneth Paltrow in it. And I guess I like it for a number of reasons. I like it because I lived in London for a while, so it kind of connects with that piece of me. There's part of me that really always has loved London. But the part of it that I just love, and I watch it maybe not every year, but maybe every year or two, is that the whole story. So the idea, if you haven't seen it, is that there's a short setup at the beginning, and then there's two parallel storylines that happen for the bulk of the film. One is where she makes it through the sliding doors of the tube and heads off to work, and one is where she doesn't make it through the sliding doors and she's left there on the platform. And the two different trajectories are flipping back and forth all the time between the two stories.
Right.
And the two lives that materialize out of these different one, you know, same person, just two different circumstances, one on the train, one off the train, come out very, very differently. And it is one of those things that helps me to realize, or I just like it in that you kind of like, you never know
Right.
what one seemingly small happening or decision could make a change that changes a lot of things in your life. And and the storylines, without spoilers, the storylines don't really necessarily come out the way you think they're going to come out. And but it just it's very sweet. It's very well made. It's not a big movie by any means, but it brings up this idea of you never know. And I think that's part of who I am.
I love that movie. And I love that movie. I believe this is who you and I are, right? We're always open to the possibilities. From one decision, there become two possibilities, which become four possibilities, exponential, right? And
Right.
that's what's so fascinating about life is maybe you end up in the same place, probably not, and it's just one simple decision.
Right.
And so it's fascinating and it's smart. It's a smart movie. And so I liked that I was challenged to think about, possibilities, to think about what's going to happen next, to really sit and think just even logistically, how hellish could that have been doing the two different storylines in one? It was just so much fun to think about. And it actually, without really playing on emotions, it really does play with your emotions. And that's the other thing I like, right? Joy Luck Club, it's nothing but hurt feelings and all this other stuff. Sliding Doors is it's a series of happenings, and you're like, ooh, ah, ow, ah,
Well, and
it's
one thing is
fun.
I'll lift, like, oh my God, this is so great. And then, oh my God,
Yeah,
why is he
exactly.
doing that? You know,
Right,
and the characters are generally the same in the two different storylines, but they do different things because different
right,
things happen. And
right,
so, you get not just kind of what's going on for the Gwyneth character, and she has two different realities, but the people do different things.
right.
And so it I don't know. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
I do too. I do too.
Okay. All right. Now for part two.
Mm.
Mm, Cynthia, what is the new movie you want to gush about? And by
I love,
new, like, anytime in the last year or two.
well, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is a couple of years old. I have yet to find a movie that replaces that as my favorite. I love it. Again, here's this all Asian cast. excuse me, which is funny because it doesn't really have to do with the Asian culture that really gripped me. It is about different dimensions. It is smart in that it also jumps different timelines. There's comedy in there. Michelle Yeoh's like my favorite. I like to pretend that that I'm her doppelganger, and and she looks so amazing. I can't believe it. And that she has this great scene with um who is that? Jamie Lee Curtis. And okay, now I'm gonna bring back Goonies. I forgot his name. It's Key J. I can't remember. But Data from the Goonies is one of the main characters in that movie as well. But what I love is as difficult or challenging or complex all these different scenarios play out. And if you hadn't seen this movie, it's about characters going into different realities, different worlds, different galaxies, to different versions of themselves, and trying to save the universe, trying to save, right, while they're going through these different realities. Uh, at the end of the day, it's again a movie about relationships. And no matter what you see or what goes through, you'll see that there's a running theme, even in all the ridiculousness of uh, of everything else. Again, just for the Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh bit, you'll know what I'm talking about. Here's a hint: hot dog fingers. And again, it's just ridiculous. It boils down to some really simple key ingredients that tugs at your heart. It's timeless, it's classic. It's a movie that had never been done before in that way. And of course, Asian cast, fantastic. Hopeful. Yeah. What do you think
Hopeful,
of that movie?
positive.
It
I
was.
saw some of it, and then I have to be honest, I got confused and fell asleep.
There's a lot. There are a lot of different scenarios that go on. It's crazy how people are jumping through, these different portals to different realities. Yeah, here's the thing. It's not a movie where you're left tepid. You either like it or you don't like it. Can't be mad at that.
That's like what they used to say about Napoleon
Dynamite?
Dynamite. That Napoleon like Netflix had a really hard time because they were trying to figure out how to create their little algorithm that would say if you like this, you're going to like that. But what
Mhm.
they discovered was that Napoleon Dynamite was like you couldn't include it in the algorithm.
I mean, you couldn't. I mean, where would you put it down? It was a whole bunch of nothing. It
Well,
was
and it's just weird.
it was, but here's the thing is that there was no swearing. There was no, there was a little bit of meanness, but it was just it's odd. And even in all this oddness, and I think I was told that, and I could be wrong, is it was a done by a Christian group who wanted to prove that they could do a kick-ass movie without any swearing or sex in it or violence. I mean, unless you think about Uncle Rico and his
Yeah.
football throwing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So my favorite movie to gush about of late is Wicked. I loved Wicked.
Huh,
I
even
loved Wicked. It was just the cinematography, the beauty of the art direction, the music, the it was just absolutely gorgeous, especially to see on the big screen. And I did not read the book. I know you did, but I did not read the book. I saw the show when it played live in San Francisco, probably in the early 2000s, and loved the stage show and wasn't sure what I was going to think of the movie. But the movie was very well made and it was able to incorporate like CGI and stuff like that in a way that really enhanced the way I felt it told the story.
Mhm.
And I loved it. I loved that the story makes Glinda out to not be 100% good.
No.
and makes Elphaba, the the outcast, really understandable. And Elphaba's big thing is that she loves the animals. And how can you not love somebody who wants to protect the animals? So,
Right.
it pulled on my heartstrings, and it was fun. I mean, it's quite clearly a fantasy silly movie. I don't think it doesn't try to be real, you know? And
Right.
so in that regard, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I love Wicked. The book is fantastic. Super chewy. The author is Gregory Maguire. And one thing I can tell you about him, at least from the books that I've read, is he does not skimp on detail. And so I've read a few of his books, and one, not Wicked, you're in the Netherlands, and I could actually feel myself, see myself pedaling through with my bike. Maybe I have 3 gears max, and I can see the tulips and all, it's just really dense and chewy that way. I loved the musical, and Secret. I shed a tear or two at the end of Defying Gravity. Is it Idina Menzel hit that note, and I just started welling up. I'm like, I've never cried at a show before. What is going on? And but it was lovely. And so the thing that was amazing about the movie is that they actually took in more details of the backstory of about the cruelty to, about the talking animal. Spoiler alert, apologies if you haven't seen anything, if you haven't don't know anything about Wicked. But what I said to you before is that they put in the movie just enough detail and backstory that I wish they put more and there's absolutely no way you could. I mean, that book is, I don't even know how many hundreds of pages long. um, and it's talks, it just shows how cruel people can be through
Yeah.
fear and
Yeah.
manipulation and the things that they want. And
Yeah.
it's actually a really painful show to watch. And there are silly elements. I mean, I love, the friendship and how it comes about and all these other things, but it is to me it's a really painful movie because I think about how I felt as an outcast. I was a jock girl, but really I wanted to do all this woo-woo stuff. And deep down I wanted to be a cheerleader, but there was no way because I was a three-sporter, right? And then how would all my jock friends see me and blah blah blah. So, feeling like an outcast, it touches on a lot of things. And you know, um, also with this climate, and getting rid of voices and, lowering voices, quelling, it also hit close to home as well. So brilliant movie,
Yeah.
amazing story.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fantastic. In my view, it's a must see. I even
It
made my
is.
kid go see it. And, he's not really the type for musicals, but he was like, yeah, I get it. It was quite a film.
It was.
It's
Yeah,
quite a film.
totally worth seeing.
Well, that is kind of a wrap on this week's episode of Mind Power Meets Mystic. Life's a little, shall we say, bumpy out there. And so, when you don't know what to do, watch a movie.
Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with giving yourself a little bit of reprieve, right? And just getting a little bit of fantasy in your life and having a little bit of laughter and really connecting. It's hard. It's not easy out these days. And as much as I love connecting with people, um the I don't know about you, but the conversations have been more serious than not lately. So, you know, I'm glad we did a gush episode.
Me too. Thanks for joining us this week on Mind Power Meets Mystic. Make sure to join us next week for another fun-filled episode. If you haven't rated us, if you haven't reviewed us, if you're not following us, we would ask that you do all of these things. They help us to grow the show. Thanks, and see you next week.